One of the most prestigious things you can do in any weight class-based sport is to win a world title in not just one, but two different weight classes, becoming a double champ. Well, there have been 7 raw powerlifters that have achieved that very thing in the IPF. In this video, I'm going to take a look at those 7. There have been 2 men and 5 women. So the first athlete to have achieved this was Kimberly Walford, who did it back in 2014. So starting off, she first became a world champion in 2012, the first year that the IPF World Championships went raw. In the 63 kilo class she started out as, where she had a 468 kilo total, including this 220.5 kilo deadlift to lock up the win there. And her body weight was 61.6, so still a pretty light 63. She defended her title in the same weight class the following year. And then in 2014, she moved up to the 72 kilo weight class. Now, you might not recognize the 72 kilo weight class because it doesn't exist anymore. So the women's weight classes were a bit weird. Back in the day, pre-2020, there used to be 7 weight classes instead of 8. It used to go from 63 to 72 to 84. Then from 2021 onwards, they got rid of the 72 kilo weight class and split it into the 69s and the 76s, which I think makes a lot more sense. The jump from 72 to 84 was a bit much. But yeah, back then, the next weight class up was the 72s, and that's where Kimberly Walford went. And in 2014, she became the first double champ in the history of IPF Raw Powerlifting when she won the 72 kilo world title with a 510 kilo total, including this 230 kilo deadlift. And her body weight for this was only 65.2. So her body weight only went up by under 4 kilos from when she first won the 63s, and she was, yeah, a good 7 kilos damn near below the weight class limit. Number 2 is Krzysztof Wierzbicki, Mr. Deadlift, or Mr. Front Double Bicep as I like to call him. Achieved it back in 2017. So Krzysztof Wierzbicki won the first inaugural 4 world titles in the 93s. His first one in 2012, with this 330 deadlift on his way to a 765 kilo total to win his first world title at only 22 years old. Hence why that is a very young looking Krzysztof Wierzbicki. And he only weighed 89.3. So obviously slowly filled out the weight class as he matured as a lifter and won the first 4 93 kilo world titles. And then in 2017, he moved up to the 105s. And he ended up winning, becoming the second only double champ and the first male to do it. He won with an 885 kilo total, including this massive 380 kilo deadlift, which was on his second attempt. He actually attempted 400 after this and came kind of close. He got it to around the knees or above the knees, I think, from memory, before losing it. And he weighed 99.3, so 10 kilos exactly heavier than when he won his first world title 5 years prior. So again, not exactly a filled out 105, but gained more weight than Kimberly Walford did. Number 3, and this is another one that a lot of people probably aren't aware of these days, Anna Castellain. So in 2016, she was an 84 kilo lifter, and she ended up winning worlds that year with a 527.5 kilo total, including this final 205 kilo deadlift, which was for the win. And how's that for a grinder deadlift for the win? So yeah, 527.51 worlds that year in the 84s. And get this, she only weighed 74.1. So she was almost 10 kilos below the weight class limit. This is back in the early days of powerlifting, where not only were people not cutting to make weight, they were, yeah, on the lower end. Like nowadays, you don't see people on the low end of a weight class. People are cutting to make it, and everyone's on the high end. Unless you're Bob Matthews and you're winning, clapping all the 120s as a 105, but that is very rare to happen nowadays. More common back in the early days of powerlifting when the sport was still newer, still developing, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that just goes to show they definitely needed to split that 72 weight class up, because yeah, there should not be a 74 kilo lifter winning an 84 kilo world title. It just should not happen. But nevertheless, she did it. And 2 years later, in 2018, she came back as a 72 kilo lifter, which is arguably where she should have been in the first place, given that she was a 74 initially, or weighed 74 initially. But she went down to the 72s, and in 2018, she added a second weight class world title to become the third ever double champ. Here's a 195 squat on her way to winning with a 525 total, so only 2.5 kilos less than what she won the 84 kilo worlds with 2 years prior. You can see quite a grinder of a squat as well. And her body weight there was 70.1. So she definitely lost a bit of weight, but yeah, still only really 4 kilos difference in body weight across those two weight classes, which I'm not really saying that the lifters to have won or to have become a double champ in the early days of powerlifting aren't as impressive. Well, actually, no, I am kind of saying that. I don't think that's a controversial statement to make. I mean, I think with how powerlifting is in today's age, very different to what it was back in 2014, 2016, 2018. So not to say this wasn't impressive, obviously it still is. She's still part of history as one of only 7 powerlifters ever to achieve this feat, but not exactly as impressive as someone doing it today when powerlifting is much more stacked and you have killers in damn near every single weight class. And you can't get away with being on the low enough weight class and winning, like I said, unless you're Bob Matthews. Number 4, Joy Nnamani, the first to do it in the, I guess you would say, modern era, if you're counting 2021 onwards as that time. So she initially won her first 2 world titles as a 52, and in 2018 she actually won best lifter overall on the women's side. But yeah, in 2018 she won the 52s with a 430.5 kilo total, including this 195.5 kilo deadlift. And she had a body weight of 51.8, so she had actually filled out the weight class, unlike some of the previous lifters on this list. She defended that title the following year in the same weight class, and then from 2021 onwards, she moved up to the 57s. And in 2021, she won a 57 kilo world title with a 480.5 kilo total, so 50 kilos heavier than what she had won her first world title with as a 52. Including this 220.5 kilo deadlift. And again, her body weight for this was 56.6 kilos. So again, filled out her weight class. Nowadays, she is a 50. Sorry, she's a 60. Well, she has lifted as a 63 lifter. Although I think she's back as a 57 now, bouncing between the weight classes. Moving on to Anatolii Novopismennyi, the 5th lifter to do it, and only the 2nd male lifter who accomplished the feat in 2021. So he won his first world title as a 93 back in 2019 with an 852.5 kilo total, including this monster 320 kilo squat, which moved as smooth as you like. I think he missed his 3rd, which was a world record attempt. But yeah, he weighed 92.4 kilos. He was quite young when he did this. I think he was only like 21 or 22, I want to say. Something crazy young. Definitely still a junior. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, definitely still a junior. But he moved up after this into the 105s, where he has since won 2 world titles. The first of which was in 2021, where he totaled 937.5, including this monstrous 360 kilo squat. Absolutely huge squat for a 105. And yeah, 937.5 is the total back in 2021. Kind of crazy considering that, 4 years on, the IPF world record stands only 3 kilos above that, still held by Anatolii. Granted, there have been 105s that have lifted more than that, not internationally in the IPF, but still something to be said about that consistency at the top. Anatolii, one of the most underrated lifters, because a lot of people don't seem to remember / realize that this man won world titles in 2 weight classes and held world records in those 2 weight classes as well. So yeah, very underrated lifter. And his body weight was 102.8 at the time. So at the time, we're still filling out the weight class. I believe he's gotten closer to the top end of the 105s recently. And I think his strength is definitely far above that 940 mark now. I think he just hasn't exactly been able to put it all together on the international platform to put together a 950 plus, potentially 960 day that I believe he has in him. Will it be enough to beat Anthony McNaughton, though, is the question everyone's asking, or going to be asking leading to Worlds. And most people are going to say no, and I'm inclined to agree. Although you can't count out a double champ, Anatolii. You never know. Number 6, Lya Bavoil. Lya Bavoil won her first world title as a 63 in 2021 with a 548 kilo total. You can see her lifts here. She had a 205 kilo squat, which is arguably her best lift. Well, that and deadlift. A 112.5 kilo bench press, which is definitely her worst lift out of the 3. So this locks up a 548 kilo total at a body weight of 62.8. So pretty much filling out the weight class at this point. And a 230.5 kilo deadlift. Which gave her that winning total and made her a world champion in the 63s that year. 2 years later, she came back as a 69 kilo lifter in the weight class up, and she added her second weight class world title to her resume with a total of 549, so only 1 kilo more than 2021. So you can see there her squat 211.5, 115 kilo bench, and a 222.5 kilo deadlift. For a 549 total, like I said, only 1 kilo above what she had won the weight class below with 2 years prior. And her body weight was 65.2. So Lya Bavoil is someone who has never really fully filled out the 69 kilo weight class. She was, always a sort of in between 63, 69, never really filling out the 69s, but a slightly bigger 63. Although still would be quite a manageable cut, 63, I would imagine. But there you go, Lya Bavoil. And finally, the 7th and final lifter to have achieved this double champ status in powerlifting is Carola Garra. Raw powerlifting, I should say, by the way. And I'm not sure if I've mentioned that yet. This is raw, not equipped. But yes, Carola Garra in 2024, last year, became the most recent entrant into this exclusive club. She actually first won her world title all the way back in 2019. She's a 2-time 63 kilo world champion. So she was a world champ going into 2024 in the 63s. She won her first world title all the way back in 2019. You can see Lya Bavoil also on the podium there that year. But here's a 185.5 kilo squat that she hit that year on her way to a 503 kilo total to win the 63s. Her body weight was 62.6, so she was, pretty much at the upper end of that weight class at the time. And like I said, she came back 4 years later to add another raw world title in that same weight class. And last year, she moved up to the 69s in 2024, and she won. She won with a 577.5 total, with a 222.5 squat that you see there. A 140 bench. She's very much a subtotal specialist kind of lifter. I think that was her opening bench from that year, actually. And a 215 deadlift, which you see there. So 577.5 kilo total at a body weight of 67.6. So kind of similar to Lya Bavoil, where I don't think she's quite filled out the 69s. She's just a bigger 63 who, isn't cutting to that weight class anymore. And yeah, obviously the 69 kilo class being a newer sort of weight class, the world record started off kind of a bit lower. Now it's obviously gone up with Agatha Shitko. But there you have it, the 7 double champs in the history of raw IPF powerlifting. It's interesting because at Worlds this year, we're going to see a couple of lifters, like there are a good 2 or 3 lifters that are going to be attempting to win a world title in their second weight class going into Worlds this year. So I thought it was a good timing to make this video, and we'll see how many of those are able to add their names into this exclusive list of 7 powerlifting double champs.